In this episode of FullDroopTV, we fabricate a rear bumper and spare tire carrier for Project Silverado. Then we give it some race truck style with aluminum panels. FullDroopTV starts now. This episode of FullDroopTV is brought to you in part by KC Highlights.
Welcome to another episode of FullDroopTV. We got the suspension completed on our Silverado, and now it's time to add a little protection. We're going to do that in the form of a tube bumper and integrated tire mount.
Hey, how do you like these new shirts?
They look great. I think Advertising Edge did a great job on them.
Yeah, they're fantastic. We removed the factory Silverado bumper to show you guys how weak this thing is. It's all thin gauge steel, half of it's plastic. It only mounts to the frame in a couple spots. With the new bumper we're building, it's all going to be tube steel and flat plate. We're going to weld it directly into the frame to get as much strength out of it as possible. The factory Silverado bumper hung down about 10 inches from the tailgate. That ruins your departure angle. Anytime you're going off-road and you're going over uneven terrain, you want as much ground clearance as possible. So our new bumper is only going to hang down maybe about 2 or 3 inches from the factory frame rail. That way we have as much ground clearance as possible and we're not going to get snagged on anything off-road. As far as materials go for this bumper, we're going to be using 2-inch 120 wall round tubing as well as 3/16 inch flat plate. Now, first thing we need to do is remove the factory tailgate, and keep in mind, these things can be worth some money, so don't just scrap it.
The bolt holding the factory tailgate mount was stuck. Some spray lubricant and a breaker bar made quick work of this.
We started by cleaning the factory coating off of the frame. That way we have a clean place to weld to when we box in this structure. We're going to make paper templates. They're going to come off and up to the first main tube of our bumper. So we've got our paper template cut out. Wanted to show you how it's just going to lay right on the frame. It'll get welded in. We have a cradle for our tube structure to start, and it'll weld right in that spot. We're tacking everything in place first. Once we line everything up, we'll burn it in. Now that we've got our main tube welded up, I wanted to show you guys that I capped the ends off the truck. The reason I did that is there just wasn't enough room after welding to get in here with a grinder and clean up these ends. We set our rear tire in place just to figure out where we want to make our bends. We're going to start with this lower tube. We're going to come out about 2 feet, bend approximately a foot of flat, and then we'll end up doing about 2 feet back to this other corner. Well, now that we've got our tube all bent up, we're going to take it over to the bench, notch the ends, clean them up, and we'll get it tacked back on the truck. So we need a width for our upper tube at 61 inches. We pre-bent the tube and set it on the bench. Then we laid out our 61 inches from the edge of the bench to this point right here. That way we know where to cut these tubes off and notch them. Well, we've got our mounting points all welded up. We welded the washer into the end of this tube. We've cleaned it up. We're going to use this hole to run a 5/8 bolt through here and through an existing hole in the bedside. That'll serve as our mounting point for our upper tube structure on the bumper. After we get our nut welded in, we'll mount these up, fit the tube in place, and tack it. Well, we've got our upper hoop welded in place and bolted in. We're going to add a couple more support tubes to the rear bumper, but also this upper hoop serves two purposes. One, it's part of our bumper, but also it keeps these bedsides from wanting to move. What happens is when you go off-road, this starts to loosen up without the support of a tailgate. So your bedsides start to move in and out, and then it'll start to crack this material in here. So this will take care of that problem. After we were happy with the positioning of our support tubes, we tacked them in place, and now we're going to burn them in. We've cut and notched some support tubes to finish off the structure of our rear bumper. After we get those welded up, we're going to box in this entire lower frame mount. We've got our cardboard template cut out. Basically what it's going to do is it's going to sit right in here, it's going to weld into the tube, and then into the support plate that we had earlier. So we're going to get this transferred onto some sheet steel, cut out, and put on the truck. With our Chevy Silverado project rear bumper fully welded, most people would consider this a completed bumper. But we wanted to take it to the next level by adding some race truck styling in the form of these aluminum panels. So we used some poster board to make up a finished template. As you can see here, there's a brake line. We created that brake line because we're working with two separate planes. Anytime you work with two separate planes like this situation, you need to create a brake to close up that gap. That's why a flat panel wouldn't work. So let's show you how we made these templates. Start by taping the paper template to the tube structure itself. Make your marks alongside the tube where you want the template to land. After you mark all your lines, cut out your template with scissors. Use the corner of a table or any flat surface to create the break line. That'll give you an idea where it needs to be on your aluminum panel. Tape the panel back on the bumper. That way you can check to make sure all your lines line up with the tubes. We're not actually going to trace this template out onto our aluminum sheet. We're just going to mark the edges. That way we know where they are, and we'll use a straight edge to make all our lines. We're using a socket just to create the radius for the corners of our aluminum panels. I'm making a dash where I want the brake line to be. As you can see, we did a layout for where our license plate is going to go. We're actually going to roll a step into this panel on this outside line, and it'll actually recess the license plate into the aluminum panel. We finished our layout where we're going to be rolling a step into these panels. Now all that's left is to cut it out with some electric shears. Well, now that we have the lines laid out on our aluminum sheet, we're going to be using a bead roller with step dives to create an indent pattern along these lines we've laid out, just like you see on this finished panel here. Now what that creates is a ton of strength inside the panel itself. You can see this one's pretty tough versus this one is pretty thin. Not to mention, it looks cool too. Using a manual bead roller is kind of a two-person job. I'm going to be feeding the panel into the dies to roll the step while Adam cranks it real slow. I just got to make sure I have good communication with him so that way when we get to the corners, I tell him to slow down. That way we can make the panel exactly how we want it. All right, slow down a little bit. Keep going. All right. For those of you who don't have access to a sheet metal brake, we wanted to show you a way to break this panel, put the bend in it, without actually having access to that type of machinery. So what we did is we took 2 clamps, clamped a piece of angled steel on top of our panel, and we're going to use a 2x4 to push down evenly on this side to create that bend. And there you go. We've taped our aluminum panels to the rear bumper. Now what we're going to do is place all of our quarter-turn fastener tabs on the back side of the panel. What that'll let us do is put it in place, tack it, then we can mark it out with a pen, drill our holes with the panels off the truck, and finish weld all the tabs. We wanted to show you the individual parts that make up a quarter-turn fastener tab. You have the tab itself, a spring that rivets in on the back side of the tab, and we're using 1/8 inch by 1/4 inch long rivets to attach that spring to that tab, as you can see here by our pre-made setup. Now the way the button works, it slides in through the panel and through the tab and attaches by clipping into the spring on the back side. All we have to do now is rivet in all our springs and we're ready to go. To mount our spare tire, we're using a fairly common method seen with most pre-runners, and that's a 3-point ratchet strap. Basically, it's 1 point in the back, 2 that are going to come up to the bed cage, and then all we have is a tab that'll weld right here, and then we'll just clip it in. It's good to go. To finish off the rear bumper for our Silverado project, we wanted to add some rear-facing aftermarket lighting because the factory reverse lights just aren't going to cut it out in the desert. So we contacted KC Highlights for a set of their 3-inch LED cube lights. They feature 4 5-watt LEDs that put out 1,800 lumens in a spot pattern. It uses a shockproof aluminum housing, and they have a 50,000-hour lifespan, which equates to about 5.5 years of continuous runtime. Can't wait to get these on the truck. We went ahead and pre-wired our lights, and to mount the cubes, we're going to be using this pre-made tab. We'll weld that on right here in this location. We'll get our harness plugged in and test them out. We're really happy with the performance of our LED cubes from KC Highlights. We chose this location because it gives us the best angle and light trajectory out of the back of the truck. It also stays protected because it's behind the body line here and it's away from our spare tire, so if we need to remove it, we're not going to risk hitting them on anything. If you have any questions about these lights, visit FullDroopTV.com.
FDTV Talk is presented by Prerunner Maniac.
Welcome to FDTV Talk. And today's question comes from Tyler, and he asks,
Hi, I was just wondering, what is the best truck to build into a pre-runner?
You know, that's something that everybody asks when they're looking to build their first pre-runner. Some of the most popular trucks used to build pre-runners happen to be Ford Rangers or Toyota Tacomas. Their buy-in cost is really cheap, so all that money that you save can be used to buy aftermarket parts to finish out your pre-runner. But let's say you want to do a full-size truck. You can find a kit for Silverados, F-150s, Dodge Rams, even Toyota Tundras. So the best place to start is do a search for long travel kit plus the name of your truck. Look for a company that builds a pre-made kit for you. That way you don't have the added expense of doing a custom kit, which could cost you 4, 5, 6 times the amount of a regular kit. And remember, if you have a question that you want answered, visit FullDroopTV.com and click on the FD TV Talk icon. And that wraps up another episode of FullDroopTV. You can see our rear bumper came out great with that race truck styling to it, thanks to the aluminum paneling we fabricated. We've got plenty of light to see behind us while we're out in the desert, thanks to our 3-inch Casey Highlights LED cubes, and this spare tire isn't going anywhere. In our next episode, we're going to be fabricating a new front bumper for this Silverado. It's going to feature some more LED light bars from Casey Highlights, so be sure to stay tuned.
On the Chevy Silverado project.
Anywhere, thanks to our rare strap.
Like you see her here. Gives us the access to our, I said e-access.
Something that everybody asks when they're looking to build their first pre-runner. Is it?
Vroom, vroom.